like this.
Hello, friends and family, and welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so glad to have you here at the Pieces Collective. It is a wonderful day. We are here, and the topic tonight, or this evening, today, is turn your craft into cash, how to start selling your handcrafted products. Today, we're discussing how to turn the craft that you love into a business. Before we welcome our guest, I do want to welcome Ikrama Muhammad, who has crafted this discussion, and who is you're here, Ikrama. You're here.
I am here.
You are the executive director of Pieces Collective, and you are here to welcome us and talk to us a little bit about the Pieces Collective. So I'm going to let you do that.
Thank you very much. And welcome to everyone. Isn't technology fun? We have had a couple of years of getting adjusted, and we thank you for your patience as we iron out the things here, because we do have an exciting and inspiring topic for you tonight. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the Pieces Collective. We're a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and our mission is to use our creativity and art to help make our communities better places. Our platform hosts makers who handcraft items such as jewelry, handbags, soaps, and then we donate a portion of the proceeds to doing community programs such as this event tonight. And every month we have free online wisdom, wellness, and wealth talks. But tonight I'd like to step back a moment and talk to you. That's what we do. I'd like to talk to you just a minute about why we do it. We exist to continue the craft traditions that sustained our ancestors and have contributed to the social fabric that has held our communities together through a lot of trauma, a lot of good times, as well as bad. Such traditions as sewing, quilting, basket weaving, and beading, as well as others. And we want our young people to experience these beautiful crafts. We want them to know what it feels like to make something with your hands, to take individual parts or pieces, if you will, and put them together in such a beautiful way that people treasure it and it makes them smile. And these traditions and arts aren't necessarily being taught in school anymore and passed down. So we started the Pieces Collective because we recognize that community and unity is very important. There's more that we can do together than we can do alone. And to quote an ancient proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So we want to go far. Secondly, we understand the importance of collective economics and how it works to make sure that our communities get the things that they need. A lot of the resources that are lacking are due to the fact that we don't have the capital and a collective economic system to ensure that people get what they want and what they need, really. And the arts is always the last thing, the first thing to get cut and the last thing to put on. Last but not least, we recognize that one of our greatest powers is the ability to create. And we recognize that it's not just in some of us, it is in each and every one of us. And we want to nurture that ability for our benefit and to reconnect to skills of making that have traditionally been passed down from generation to generation. So we're made in the image of our Creator. Therefore, we have the power within to create whatever communities we want to exist. And at the Pieces Collective, we're striving to lay a foundation to help build those environments and communities. And this is not just for young people, because teaching each other is an intergenerational process. The opportunity for infinite possibility has no age limit. So if there's something that you always wanted to do it. You're never too old, and it's never too late to do the things that you love. So please visit us at thepiecescollective.org and support us by purchasing, donating, or sharing with a friend. And if you're a maker and you're interested in helping us with this organization, or if you're just interested in general in helping us continue the organization, continue to build it, please connect with us on our website, which again is thepiecescollective.org. I want to thank Vivian Pollard for sharing her time and her knowledge with us this evening. I want to thank you for your patience again, and I hope you enjoy and benefit. Peace and love.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you all for being here. Again, this is a conversation this evening. To your right, you should see a chat. So I will be speaking with Vivian, but this is about you and your learning and creativity and your questions. So be sure to use that chat. You can also use the Q&A. If I see that you have a question, I will definitely make sure to ask Vivian. But before we have questions, we need to know who we're talking to. Vivian is the owner of Ramona's Jewelry Box, an entrepreneur at heart. She left her corporate career as a vice president of media analysis at a crisis communications firm to pursue her dream of self-employment. Vivian also works for the Department of Treasury as a senior program a senior program analyst. She understands that being an entrepreneur has great rewards if you navigate the peaks and valleys, and believes that the keys to success are prayer, preparation, and resiliency. Please welcome Vivian Pollard. Yes, hello.
Oh my gosh. So this must be a real hot topic because it was very hard getting here, but we're here and there's so much to talk about.
There's so much to talk about. Before we get into a conversation just with you, I want to know in the chat, while you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, are there makers in the chat? Are we being joined tonight by makers? Are you crafters? What is it that you are doing? What is it that you make? And go ahead and put that in the chat. And while you all do that, Vivian, tell us a little bit about what it is that you actually do, what it is that you create.
Yeah, so I've been a maker for, since I would say the early, about 2000 is when I really started. And I started at home at my kitchen table, just playing with beads. And it just sort of took over. And so I had so much fun with it. And then I started making things, people came over, and it just really grew. So it was a home-based business. I started a beading business that I actually moved from our home to a retail location, to a mall location. And then we downsized. So I kind of went full circle with it. So it was a jewelry making business, and now I have an online jewelry retail, and I sell mostly silver now. Okay. So I've kind of done the gamut of jewelry.
Okay. So this is a question that I think probably everybody is wondering, but when do you know rather that your craft is no longer a hobby? What tipped for you that you're like, this is what I want to be doing? How do you know that within yourself?
Yeah, that's a key question. Mm-hmm. And so I do, when I talk to women about starting their business, I really urge them to know the difference between, are you, just playing around? Is this a hobby? You're having fun? Or is this a business? And the difference is your commitment, I would almost say. So there's a really great book that I read, and it talked about being a technician or a business person. So let's use the analogy of a baker. So you got to get up and make the donuts, right? Mm-hmm. And so let's say you have this craft where you go and you make this thing, jewelry, baking, whatever it is, and you agonize over making it. And then you might stay up all night and you're very passionate about it, but you kind of are more in love with the jewelry than with the business, because the business, you're going to say, okay, I've got this inventory, I've got to price it, I've got to move this to make it profitable. And you start asking yourself financial questions. And if you're making it just to make it, and that's fine, you need to recognize, is this a hobby or is this a business? And it can be both, but you really have to be able to do those financials. You have to pay attention to the bottom line, or you're not going to be profitable. You're just going to be in love with your craft.
Can you talk a little bit about those very first steps that you took when you realized, okay, it's time. This is a business. It's time to make this into a business. I have two questions in that. Can you talk a little bit about that? And can you talk about the bravery that it took to leave a job to pursue this?
Yeah, those are great questions. Okay. So I think the first thing you have to do is kind of set goals for yourself. So if this really is a business, then you have to figure out what is going to make it work. Is this going to be additional? I mean, you're going to grow this and you're going to work full time, or is this going to replace your income? And either one is fine, but you have to do the numbers. So if it's going to be, I'm making extra money, then you're going to have to set a goal for how much is it that is going to be worth my time doing this. So let's just keep it simple. Let's say I want to make $500 a month, right? So $500 a month, and you do the math and figure out maybe what 2 or 3 months of that would be. And you also have to break it down to how are you going to make that money? So you need to look at places to sell your items, the pricing, and there's a lot that goes into it. So that's part of it. That's the major part of it, is setting those goals, knowing what success is by figuring out, are you meeting your goals? And then of course, on a larger scale, if this is replacing your income, then you need to figure out, what does it take for me to replace my income, or how much money is it that I need to make in order to be in this full time? And then you break it down. Maybe you break it down by the quarter, or you break it down by 6 months, or you break it down by a month of income, but you have to do the math.
And then, talk a little bit about the jump. So let's say you do all that math and it looks like maybe, yes, I can do this. I can make this hobby my job. But then all the questions come into your mind, right? Well, somebody else is already painting, somebody else is already knitting. Maybe I don't need to be a part of that, or there's 1,000 questions of doubt that come in. So how do you navigate that doubt? How did you navigate that?
Yeah. So if you have those questions, that means that you haven't really proved it to yourself. So you really need to make sure, before you make the jump, make sure that you actually can do this. So what gives you the confidence that you really do have something? So that's why you start small. So you figure out, okay, I need to make X amount of money in this amount of time. And so you kind of grow it. I really think jumping or taking a leap is really not the greatest idea unless you've got something proven. So you have to, like I said, set those goals for yourself. But once you have something that's proven, and you're ready to make the leap, then it's easy, because you have a peace of mind, because you did the math, you set the goals. It looks great on paper, but it is a process, Shannon. There's no way around it. And everybody's story is not the same.
Right.
There's no cookie cutter answer to how you do your business, but you really do have to do a gut check, but you also have to do those financials.
We have a question. Ikrama is asking, where can you try your products out to make sure you have a viable product?
Well, I know that the Pieces Collective does a great, has several events where they bring makers together. And so you want to go to bazaars, you want to go to places where you can exhibit, maybe even go to stores and do consignment agreements with them, where you put your craft or your jewelry, whatever it is, on display there and have an agreement with them that if they sell it, you decide what the terms are. Maybe they keep 10% or 20%, and then you have the rest of the profit. But you got to get out there in the public and find places to put your wares. You also need to know your market. So depending on what your price points are and what you're trying to sell, you need to figure out who is looking for this product, who buys this product, how much do they pay for this product, and how to make it really successful.
I'd love you to continue down that path of who is buying the product, and talk a little bit about how you differentiate your product from competition. And I want to ask that question. How do you differentiate your product from competition? There's something else in there. It's something about bringing your own spirit into it. I'm wondering about that as well.
So I always say, if you give 5 women the exact same, well, let's actually take it away from jewelry. Let's say they're baking. You give them 5 different recipes. Give 5 women the same recipe. I guarantee that whatever they make is going to taste slightly different, you know? And it's the same thing with jewelry. If you give women the same beads and, the bases, they're still going to make 5 different patterns. So in a way, it seems like it's a competition, but actually I found that when I was selling my jewelry, when I went to market, it helped me that were also selling jewelry, because then more people came because they said, oh, they've got this thing and I've got so many places to check out. And we were all different. We're all going to be individual, and there's plenty of room. So when someone is buying your wares, they're really buying you. I mean, let's look at it this way. So when you go to McDonald's, and I heard someone talking about this, and I just thought this was such a funny thing, but it's a true concept. Shannon, can you make a better burger than McDonald's?
Yes.
Yes, we all can make a better burger than McDonald's, but we go to McDonald's because they've got a system and they have a way of doing it that we've bought into. So when we say, oh, I'm going to McDonald's, you have a relationship with McDonald's. You know what McDonald's is going to give you. And that's the relationship you're going to have with your customers as you get them. They are buying into you and your style. So it really doesn't matter. The market, some people think the market is saturated. Oh, if I go here and they've already got plenty of people, they don't have you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Can you keep talking about that a little bit, where there has to be a sense of confidence that goes into that, because isn't there a little bit of pressure, right? The idea of like, oh, they're buying me. Who am I? And now I have to figure out who I am. How do you find the confidence to sell yourself?
Well, so that's the thing. And that's where I'm kind of on the fence. So I started out by saying, and I do believe this, you can't fall in love completely that you're not looking at the financials, right? But you're doing this, you got to be passionate about it. It's a craft. It's something that you do. It probably started as a hobby, and it's something you're really excited about. And so I really don't think that women should really take it personally, but I do think that they should sell it from a personal standpoint, because I'm excited. So I have a nephew actually who's in the business. He's a crafter, and he makes shea butters and body soaps and scrubs and different things. And we have conversations a lot. What I said to him is, do you love your product? And he does. He loves making it. He loves teaching his kids. He and his wife make things together. And that's what he needs to talk about, his passion for what he's making. Because 10 people are probably selling shea butters, but they don't have the passion that he's going to have about his. And that's why I kind of say they're buying into you. Mm-hmm. So I think that women don't really need to be nervous per se about selling, but I think they should be passionate about what they're making.
Yeah. You said a little bit a while back about knowing who is coming to you. And can you talk a little bit about how to identify your target market?
Well, okay. So as part of that, when you start a business, one of the things you need to do when you know that it's a business is you need to do a business plan. And I'm not going to talk a lot about that because you can Google that and get all of the outline of what you need to do. But you also need to do a marketing strategy. You need to figure out for this for your market, whatever it is, let's say it's soaps, who's buying, handcrafted soaps? Where do they get them? So you have to do the research to figure out where that audience gets that particular item and how much do they sell for it. So what does the market bear for that? So you just have to do your research, an analyst on what it is that you're selling. So it could be, it just depends on what it is. Let's say it's some kind of health item. So, that's an easy thing. So who's looking for something for, whatever it is? Maybe they have a eczema, or maybe they like a certain scent, people who like spices. And you just have to really know your product and know who's looking for the product by doing the research.
Find that you have a lot of help. How do you get help if you have any help?
To do what aspect of help?
Yeah, some like, do you have anyone to help you with your marketing? Do you have anyone to help you with your research that you do? Do you ask friends for help? I wonder if people are thinking to themselves, this is a lot. Like it's a lot to, but it's a lot, right? It's a job. But I'm wondering if you do ask for help sometimes. We're going to wait because I feel like there's a chance that Vivian is going to come back.
Oh my God, have I gone away?
Oh yes, only you're frozen, but I
Oh,
can hear you.
oh no. Okay, but
That's
you can.
okay. As long as we can hear you, this is the great.
Okay, all right. Am I still frozen?
You
That you can
are,
hear me? Okay,
but I can hear you.
okay. So um, it kind of depends on how much you want to do, or you can, yeah, absolutely, you can contract it out. So let's talk about social media. There are so many friends, family, and organizations that you can go to that will explain social media. I mean, it's kind of still a new entity, except for the millennials. That's kind of all they know. So, how involved do you want to be with your Twitter account and sending out the tweets and sending pictures on Instagram and sending your emails? It really depends if you want to do all the administrative things. Do you want to hire a bookkeeper or CPA to do your books? It really, there's, like I said, no cookie cutter way of doing business. It just depends on how much you want to do. I personally did a lot of it. um and even when I had staff, I was doing my payroll, I was doing my marketing. I just found that I was fascinated with the business end of it. And then I was teaching classes that really still kept the artisan in me going. So I was teaching women how to make jewelry, and that was fulfilling that part. But I was in it full time. So I wanted to know everything about the business from the ground up. But it doesn't have to be that way. It just depends on how much you want to be involved and how much you're willing to pay others, or if you have a good set of people who will volunteer. Everyone is different.
You were just talking about you were teaching as well as doing the marketing and the behind the scenes. And I feel like this is a very, very good time. So you said you were teaching. This is a great time to show us what you were teaching. If you have everything ready, I would love to keep talking to you and asking questions. But if you would set take us through step by step how to make something, that would be amazing as well.
Oh, I'd love to. And I've got some things just prepared to do that. So you can see me okay?
Yes, and that I'm seeing you just fine now.
Okay, I'm going to change my camera. Let's see if we can do this. Oops.
Ooh, perfect. Yes.
Is that good?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So I want to show you, I thought it'd be cool just to show you how easy it is to make some earrings. So I've got some beads here, different shapes and sizes. These are called straight pins, but these have little balls on the end. I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then these are just flat, and these are usually how they come, just a flat part on the end. But I was saying that if you give 5 women the same beads, they come up with different things.
Yes.
So I'm just going to put some beads on here and just show you how easy it is to come up with a variation.
And while you're doing that, can you also talk about inspiration when you're doing things like this and I'm sure you have just tons of materials. When you go to make a piece of art, what is inspiring you? What is inspiring you?
Well, sometimes I'm just fascinated with the beads. I'll just find like this one has kind of got some texture to it. Love different colors, and so going into a bead shop is the most sensory therapeutic thing to do, because if you're not an artisan, it makes you think you're an artisan because they just have such beautiful bright colors and different textures and shapes and sizes. But the other thing is that you do want to kind of keep up on fashion trends for the for the jewelry, because for instance, you remember we went a few years ago there, and a lot of women still do. We went through a thing where everybody was wearing the chandeliers, long dangly earrings. So that's these, and then also this one. Let me know if you can see. Okay, Shannon.
Yes, we can so far.
But these are all very easy to make.
Oh my goodness. Ikram is also asking about, can you talk a little bit about color theory and how do you know what colors to put together?
So you know what? So in art, I think everybody's familiar with color wheels. And color wheels will kind of tell you what contrasting colors or complementary colors, or colors that are on different ends of the spectrum. So I wish I had some beads up here, but it's really interesting in nature. There are beads, semi-precious stones that have the natural, how do you say, complementary different hues in them. And I believe that's where the spectrum on the color world came from. Oh, so, so that's one way to do it, is to go to a color wheel. Blue and orange, I think, are directly across from each other, and that will kind of help you. But a lot of times women will come into the store with an outfit. Can you make me something to match this outfit? And so that's also would tell you what colors, and so you'd ask them what colors are they looking to make pop, and so that's part of it. And then there are also the kind of neutral colors.
Right.
So it just kind of depends on what your mission is. So if you really colors, I would say use a color wheel, because there's some combinations we just probably wouldn't even think of, like a yellow, a blue, and an orange. Those are complementary colors. So there's just different ways to come at that. And I saw Ikwama when she was talking. I was like, oh my God, salivating over all the fabric she has in her shop at home. That's my other thing I want. Fabrics will also kind of send you down the road with all different kind of designs in them and colors that you can then get your jewelry to. One thing I do want to make a point of saying is
it's not, we want to stay away from copying. And it's so easy
to look at something and want to, duplicate it, but that there are copyright infringements. So you really should stay away. It's okay to be inspired by things, but you don't want to take somebody's work and copy it exactly.
I'm wondering about, I'm going back to this idea of curiosity, inspiration and curiosity. So when you first started talking to this evening about how you were playing with beads, I'm wondering about curiosity in that I have this story. A friend of mine said during the pandemic, she was watching the Great British Cook-Off or whatever that I'm sure many people have seen it. I had never seen it, sorry. But she started being inspired. She was curious to see if she could make one of these things, and then proceeded to go ahead and start making macaroons. And I'm wondering about your own curiosity with beads. Was it something suddenly that you fell in love with, or were beads in the home? How did that curiosity begin?
Well, there were two things. One is that I always liked playing with crafts, but as a little kid, I used to play dress up, and I used to go to my mother's jewelry box and just play with her jewelry, and I would, put her jewelry on, and I had really long hair, believe it or not, as a kid, and I'd sweep my hair up, and I would put on bracelets, and I'd get on, put on her high heels, and I'd put on her dress, and I just loved playing. And then later in life, I discovered a bead store and just fell in love with beads. And it's the craziest thing. I didn't know what to do with them, but I was buying them. And I had a nice stash before I knew it. And then I would just. So I think it was it just came kind of naturally. I don't know. Some people just take to things, and I think that's kind of what happened.
I think it's important to hear that, because people don't know. They feel like they have to choose something, but really, if you're curious about, just like what you did, you said you would go into the bead store and you didn't really know why you were buying these beads, but you bought them anyway, even without having a destination for them. I think that's a big, I think there's a lesson in that. Ikrama is asking, what suggestions do you have for funding your business and securing your startup costs?
Well, so there's counseling. And so one of the things I did when I first started out is I went to a nonprofit. It's called SCORE, and it's made up of people who have been in retail, and they usually partner you with people who've been in the part of retail that you're thinking of going in. So they've had some successes, and so they mentor you. And once you go through their program or meet with them, then there are other of course, they're the grants. There's the SBA too, but there are different pockets of money out there for startups. So, and also at the universities, they have incubation organizations, incubators, where you go in and teach you about business too, and they kind of help you launch, help you put your business plan together and put a package together so that you can go to a financial institution or attract money. So that's there's a lot of help out there for women and minorities and small businesses in general.
Very good. I want to move us back shortly into talking a little bit more about things like preparing for marketplace and things like that. But I do want to give you an opportunity to sort of finish up or take us through the remainder of your earrings.
Okay, well, let's put this one together. Okay. I kind of like the way that one came out. Mm-hmm. So I've got some silver on top of it, and this is a piece of turquoise at the bottom, and I have a little embellishment at the bottom. So it's important to have really good tools. So this one is called a needle nose plier. It's flat on the inside. I'll be using that. I'm going to use this round nose plier that's very small at the tip and gradually gets larger. And depending on where you put this on your wire, you get a very small or a large loop, of course. And then the last tool, these are the three essential tools. This is a cutter. So you need a really sharp wire cutter, and these dull pretty fast. So you're going to go through a lot. But let's go ahead and just finish this earring off. So I'm going to right angle there. Shannon, can you guys see that okay?
We can, yes.
Oh, good. Okay. And then I'm going to clip a little bit of it off there. And whenever I cut wire, I'm putting my hand over it so it doesn't pop all over the place. And so what we're doing, let me just give you a, we're going to make a loop. Okay, let me just go ahead and go there. So remember I said that depending on where you put it on this, you're going to get a certain type of loop or a certain size of loop. And I'm kind of putting it toward the middle. Just near the middle. And then I'm going to turn it over like I'm going backwards. And it makes that nice little loop. And that's going to connect to your ear wire. And then I'm going to close that loop. And we've just made an earring that quick. So there have been times where I didn't have a pair of earrings, the pair of earrings that I wanted for an outfit. And I've got 20 minutes before we got to leave, and I'll run in and make something.
That's if I had the audacity to say to my husband, no, I'm not ready, but I'm just going to go and make some jewelry. That wouldn't fly. But then again, I don't make jewelry, and it would take me 3 days. So it's good to know that it's possible.
Oh, it's so possible, believe me. And I don't announce it. I just kind of run and say, I just need 10 minutes. Then I will whip it together, and who knew? Let me just close this one. Yeah.
Well, can you talk a little bit? You were talking about sort of being prepared, and I would like to hear your thoughts on preparing for a marketplace, having your image, having your brand strategy. Just how do you prepare for such a thing?
Yeah. Okay. So we're in business. We've decided had done some home shows or small exhibits, and now we're ready to start branding ourselves. And it's never too soon to start branding yourself. So you want to the first thing you want to do is when you figure out your name, and you don't even have to get your tax IDs. What do you call yourself? And you want to call yourself something memorable, right? So just to say beautifully yours. Well, what are you selling? I don't know. It's going to be beautiful, but what is it? So I really think you should name it something that has to do with what the product is. So that's part of it. Then what's it going to look like? Because you want to have a finished product. So it's very easy to do labels at home. I mean, nowadays, they have all kinds of papers that run on inkjet. So you want to make sure that your labeling looks clean and that it's got all the information on it that it needs to, including your story. So maybe just have a little description on the back, made with love. I mean, just something that says, I had a great time making this piece. I hope you have a good time with it too. Something that shows your personality. So you want to do branding, and then you also want to decide what your exhibit space is going to look like. So I'm going to exhibit. Am I going to have something on the floor, carpeting maybe? Am I going to have bookcases? Am I going to have plants? I went down to I was on Capitol Hill this morning for the Easter market. They have a little segment over there. And I was walking around and I just marveled at some of the most beautiful. I mean, they're in the middle of the street, but they've got these tents, but they really transform them. You know, when you walk into them, you just kind of feel like you're in their space and they take you into their story, whatever it is. So it can be jewelry. If it's jewelry, you need to make sure that you are in a well lit place because people like jewelry that sparkles, right?
Right.
And if it's what else did I see? The shea butters. So my nephew was also down there. You want to make sure that they're displayed and that you have enough inventory so it looks full, so that they don't have to figure out what scent they're looking at. You might want to have plants so it looks, organic. They think about something that's fresh. And so you need to figure out what product it is that you're selling and what does that look like in the store. So you do want to go to different exhibits or go in a store where they're selling that to see how it's displayed, see how the big stores, set up their exhibits in their stores or the competition. You want to do that too. You want to go to any place that you can go and kind of see how it is set up and how people are projecting to the public. But you also want to put yourself in it. Everybody has their own style.
And so we move from the style of what you're presenting, how you're getting your customer. Now you've got your customer and they want to pay you. Can you talk some about e-commerce? How do you get the money?
How do you get the money? Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Okay. So now e-commerce has really just made it so easy. There's everything out there. There's Cash App, there's Venmo, there's Square. So it kind of depends on where you are. PayPal. If you have not started a bona fide tax ID business, then you might want to stay with PayPal and Cash App, that type of Zelle, I think, is also offered through some of the banks. But once you do get your tax ID and you have registered with the state, then I would use something like Square or those Square's e-commerce that's going to give you some reporting, because you're going to need that, because you're going to need to keep track of what you owe to the various government agencies, and you do want to keep up with that. So with these Square, as I mentioned, they give you a little device that plugs right into your telephone. So when you're in your booth, you make a cell, you swipe or you hold it close if it's got a chip in it, and it's easy as that, and then it emails them the receipt. It could not be easier. Much easier than when I started, where we had to do the slips of paper and run the credit card and all that. All of that is, I mean, you probably can do that, but who does that?
I remember like the machines at like farmers markets where they were like and like trying making noise, and then you had like a yellow slip and a pink slip and a white slip. Yeah, it seems like it's a lot easier now. So
okay, more secure now too.
More secure. So okay, so you've got the money.
Okay.
Right in between that, between the bringing people in to give you the money and getting the money, right in between that is how much does the thing cost? So what advice do you have for pricing your items?
Well, there are a few ways where you can do that. So one thing is, and this is something no one thinks about, well, a lot of people don't think about, is overhead. Even if you don't have a store, you still have overhead. So if you've bought these things, you've got all this inventory and you hopefully pay cash for it. But if you didn't and you charged it or financed it and there's interest on it, that's overhead. Wherever you are set up for working, if it's your home, that's still inventory. You still have lights and climate control and all of that stuff, or if you're renting a place to work. So you really have to think of what your overhead is, and then you've got to get that down to a number per item. to figure in. Maybe it's $1, maybe it's $2, just depending on what items you're selling. So one is overhead. The other thing is you need to figure out how are you going to price something. So let's say you're going to sell this little earring that I just made. So these turquoise with sterling silver on top, and maybe I sell them, let's say, for $30, right? So how did I get to that $30? Well, part of it is you want to consider what similar items sell in other places. So it's what the market will bear. It's also what overhead went into making this. And then also, what is my time? That's overhead too. So I've got to pay myself. And then the most important part is, what did these materials cost me? So when you buy inventory, please keep your receipts and please know what a strand of this turquoise costs. And so if I have a strand, say the strand costs me, I don't know, $50. How many beads are in that strand, and then divided by $50, and that'll tell me what this bead costs. So you really want to know what your inventory costs. And then some people, it just depends. Some people will take the cost time and either double it, triple it. Some do 400 times. So just 400%, just to come up with a basis for what they should charge. So there are different ways, there's different formulas, but I would consider all of them. What does the market bear for a similar item? And then also know what this cost you to make and include your time. And then, maybe do a formula of double or triple time and see how it compares.
Yeah. This is an interesting question. I feel like it falls into what you're talking about. So the question is, what do you think about having an Etsy store or an eBay store versus your own website? And I feel like there's some crossover between how you're pricing things and whether or not you're going to choose to put that thing on Etsy or eBay or your own store. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that Etsy is really great. eBay is really wonderful. It's a little harder to maneuver, as is Amazon, and Amazon requires you to have a certain amount of inventory. So as opposed to doing my own site. So if I put it on my own site, who's going to see it? That's the question. So how many people can you get to come to your site? How do you advertise your site? Is that going to cost you a lot of money? Or do I go to Etsy and rely on the folks they already have coming in? So I have a website, and so to drive people to it, I do have to advertise other places. Like I might put out, Facebook has a very robust marketing program where you can look at zip codes, you can look at cities, you can look at people, because they have zillions of people looking at Facebook. I can say, give me all the people who have been looking for jewelry or looking for silver or looking for a pie. I mean, whatever it is your craft is. So you just have to figure out where you get the most bang for your buck. It's a lot of work to do it on your own. And I think if you're just starting out using Etsy or some platform that's already up and running, they've already got people there looking for that type of product. You might really want to consider starting there.
Do you use, you said you actually you enjoy Etsy specifically. Do you use some of these products?
I have used Etsy before, but I have my own. I actually have my own website. It's ramonasjewelrybox.com. I do have a Facebook page too. I have an Instagram that's not active right now, but it should be active pretty soon. I'm going to get back on there. And it just depends on how many followers you have. So having been in the business for years for myself, I have a pretty big following. And so it's not really hard to get people to come and look at something that I post. But if I'm starting out, that's the question. Where your advertising dollars best spent?
And can you, go ahead. Yes.
The other thing I did when I first started, so when I first opened my retail store, I started advertising in the local media. So I figured out what small newspaper was right there. It was in Bowie. And at that time, Penny Saver was really big. So you need to figure out your local market. Where do they get their information? Is it, and it's kind of different now. So, there are Facebook groups. There's so many user groups for this, and are interested in that. There's churches. There's bazaars. There's all kind of ways to get people. Not so much email anymore, but a lot of people are following people on Instagram and Facebook locally.
So I would love to have you even go deeper into that. When you first started out, how did you build? You were putting things in local papers, but how did you build that customer base and then continue to engage with your customers?
So we were teaching classes, and so I had a excuse me, a number of women who went through the series of my classes, and they came back, and there were incentives. So we did coupons. You spend this with us, we're going to give you, so much back. Or we would have sales, and we would get them to come in, periodically for the sales. We also I really pushed email lists at the time. And it's really funny. I think it's generational, because I still have a huge mailing list, and I can tell that, they're checking the emails that I send them. So I have this debate with my nephew all the time, who has been very resistant to email lists. His group is more Instagram. So, but what I've noticed is that when he is selling to people my age, they're still
They're
emailing.
asking for an email list.
Yes. So know your audience, who, and know what your audience likes. So I think his audience is kind of a cross section. So he needs to know how to appeal to the different sections.
Yeah. I am loving this conversation. I'm wondering if there are things can you give us some things that I wish I had known when I started? Finish that sentence, I wish I had known what?
I wish I had known. Oh, that's a good one. I wish I had known. Well, here's a serious one. I wish I had known to really look at the numbers more often, because they would have told me more. Like, I found out, as I got down the road, I said, you know what? So I really took it seriously. I had a spreadsheet, and it was color coded. What I finally realized was that the data was really talking to me, but I wasn't paying attention at first. It was telling me that most people came in on, I think Tuesday was a big day, and maybe Thursdays, which was really interesting, because you think the week, I just assumed it was Saturday. Sunday wasn't that great. I thought Saturday and Sunday were going to be best. But no, women really came to the store because they wanted. I don't know. I don't know what it was magical about Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I could also tell between what hours. So I wish I had really mined my data a little bit more. I wish I had also, like I said, I was so immersed. What big aha moments did I have? I don't know. Let me think about that one. Yeah, I'm sure there's some. Let me think about it.
That's good. You think about it. Come back to me about that one. Then,
Okay.
are there you mentioned one book at the very beginning that you had read that was helpful. Are there other resources that you have encountered that have really helped you along the way?
SCORE. I would really encourage people to get in contact with the local SCORE. SCORE is the acronym for it. The book was Michael Gerber, E-Myth, which was an eye opener. And I think everybody who believes they're an entrepreneur or wants to start a business needs to read that book, because it asks you hard questions about, like, are you a risk taker? Are you a business person or are you an artisan? And because people don't realize you really need to distinguish yourself. And what kind of personality do you have? So, oh, this is I neglected to say this when we were talking about the exhibiting. You asked me about people being kind of nervous about exhibiting, and I told you that people should get excited about, passionate about what they're selling. But the reality of being nervous is real because I where they almost feel like, you know, people will come in and buy my stuff if they want it. And they really didn't have to participate in getting people into their booth or to tell them about their product. And consequently, maybe they weren't successful make eye contact or because they didn't even just say hello to people walking by. So it's really important that you be friendly, that you be approachable, and that you be confident in what you're selling. Because if you're not excited about it, other people are not going to be excited about it.
Right.
So that I did have an aha about that. So I had a really great friend who just had one of those personalities, and I was exhibiting at the Congressional Black Caucus, where everybody down there is important, right? So I'm in my space, kind of intimidated because this is the first time I'm in the convention center. I had a beautiful display, and people came by and saw it, but I'm not sure why they weren't coming in. I don't know if it could have been me that I was, kind of self-conscious and I just wasn't into it, and I just kind of forgot why I was there for a moment. So a friend of mine came by and he said, "Viv, this is amazing." He really loved it. But he said, "Here's what you do." And he took the most expensive bracelet that I had, which was maybe at the time, maybe about $250, $300. And he says, "I want you to be at the edge." I had a booth that was on a corner. He said, "I want you to kind of be at the edge of your booth and say hello to people. And I want you to be holding this bracelet." And it's so funny. It really worked. People saw the sparkle of this bracelet, people who were very interested in the kind of jewelry that I was selling. And they were like, "Hi." And they were saying, "Oh." And so I had to be willing to say, "Let me tell you about this bracelet. It's sterling silver." And I would put it in their hand, so they could see the weight. And then I would kind of step back, and that would. So you really have to learn different tactics to get people in. And once they break that seal, it's like, "Oh, wow, you have a lot of stuff in here. Let's see," but they have to be invited in.
Yeah. That is really eye-opening. The idea that you do have to sell yourself. And you've said this during our conversation today, but you have to be passionate about the thing that you are selling. Kram is asking, do you have any experience engaging with the local Chamber of Commerce?
I worked with the local chamber in Bowie, and it was really to talk to different people who were in business, just to kind of network, of course. But as far as help for the business, it was more a growth thing for me to be able to be part of this now enterprise of local business and shop owners to talk about issues of business owners. Is that, I'm not sure if that's answering the question.
I think so. I think just in general, if you've had any experience, what was it? Yeah.
Yeah, they were very helpful, and I believe that's who put me in contact with a SCORE office. So yeah, you learn from each other, especially the newer shop owners are sharing and networking and trying to get information. So the hardest part I think about having a business and having a store was not having people to talk to about it, who understood the day-to-day questions about insurance, about staffing, about hours, and that type of thing. So I would say the Chamber of Commerce and any organization of business owners, it would be very valuable to, really be a part of something like that, so you can start a dialogue with the folks who are going through the same thing you are, because it's, chances are, your immediate family, unless they have a business, won't really understand your day to day.
That was actually my very next question. Can you give us a little bit of your day to day in this world? What does it look like?
Yeah, so it was everything. It was everything from opening the door to getting the Windex out and cleaning the shelves and the glass, lots of glass in a jewelry store, cleaning the bathroom, running the vacuum, buying the inventory, paying the bills, talking to the staff, making schedules, setting the staff schedule, then setting the schedule for the classes, and it was, I mean, it's a lot. It's a
Mhm.
lot, and so really you need to. I think the Bible says count the cost, because there's a lot to it, and so you should did, which I don't think. Um, I don't think it's odd, but I went to the people that I thought were my competitors, and I went and talked to them and asked
Mm.
them their story. Why did you go into business? I had a bead shop, so I went and talked to other bead owners, which was really great, and they gave me really great advice, and they told me their story. So it really did help a lot. So don't be afraid to talk to people.
Mm. Yeah. I wonder. Oh, I'm wondering if you could repeat the book, so Sheila can put that up in the chat for us. What book did you recommend?
It's Michael Gerber, Gerber, and it's called The E Myth.
Okay, the E Myth. Perfect. Thank you so much. And then as we're like winding up, winding down, wrapping up, wrapping, can you give us just some inspiration that you have now? Who are the people that you look to? Where are you finding inspiration to keep on going? I'm sure that there are lulls and peaks and all sorts of things. In those lulls, where do you go to that keeps you inspired?
Well, there's a couple of things. So, Iquama, the Pieces Collective, of course, kind of re-sparked, because I kind of got back into the corporate work for the Department of Treasury. But it was exciting to get back into that artisan side too.
Mhm.
So, affiliate yourself with the Pieces Collective, and other organizations like that really help makers and give great exposure. I also, would hear from my customers. I still hear from my customers because they kind of became friends.
Mm.
I saw them all the time. I really loved having the shop because I really got to communicate and relate to people in a different way than a normal business would.
Mm.
So people who shared, their stories with me. I saw kids being born and grow up, husbands that, different relationships, diseases, all kinds of things that people were able to share, and I was able to pray with them, or, cry or laugh with them, whatever. So we really bonded. So that keeps me going. I hear from them. And also the successes. There are a lot of women who did start their businesses because they saw me do it, and they said, "Hey, I really love this. Let me come take this class." They would take the class, and then people would see what they were making, and they would say, "Oh, I love those. Can I buy those from you?" And it just
Mm.
kind of grew organically. And so they started their business. In fact, there's one woman, I hope she's out there, who was excited that I was doing this talk tonight, because she said she thinks she's ready to start her business, and this is right on time.
Mhm.
So, do it. Just get into the water, go out there and try it.
I think on that note, we can wrap up there. Go get out there and try it. This is what's happening. We're not quite done yet. We might be done with this conversation, but there are people here that I'm sure want to talk to you and get more information from you. Before we let you go out into the fold, I do want to say that our next Wisdom, Wellness, and Wealth event is Keep It Moving, Staying Fit for Life. And it is on Wednesday, October 20th at 7 p.m. We are going to integrate mind and body techniques for stress reduction and develop lifelong strategies for healthy living. So on that note, thank you very, very much, Vivian. This has been a super impactful discussion. It's really nice to see some Black women doing the thing, right? Out there creating and making money and doing well at it. So thank you very much for being here.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you. I've enjoyed this set.
Of course. We also want to thank Ikrama and Karen, Ikrama Mohammed and Karen Freeman, for gathering us together through the Pieces Collective. For now, what we're going to do is return to the room that we all came in on, and we will put Vivian at a table where you can go and find Vivian, talk to her about anything that you missed here. If you have questions for Vivian, please ask her. Otherwise, we will see you at the next Wisdom, Wellness, and Wealth event. Thank you so much for joining us all today.
Thanks.